Not bad. Such modest words have probably never been used to introduce an S1000RR before, but they're exactly right for this video. Stay tuned. Yes, not bad. It might sound a bit modest, but I've got to say we're now here riding on the 1000 PS best lap test track. It's a track where on the BMW S 1000RR, you're basically in first gear the entire time, almost only shifting into second once, where the bike is completely out of its element here, yet you get off it, and the first thought is, are you mad? Not bad. And that's actually quite the compliment, folks, because I honestly had my doubts. Is this even the right bike for the job? Is it even worth testing it here on this super tight circuit? But I'll tell you, my friends, we're testing these bikes tomorrow and the day after tomorrow at the Slovakia Ring, even at 300 kilometers per hour. We're testing it on the road as well. And out on the road, the problem is that you lot are such moral guardians because I'd love to time a few runs up the Stelvio Pass. Which bike is faster, this one or an MT10 SP or something like that? But then I'd have to listen to or read your comments again. What about your role model function? So now we have to simulate the Stelvio Pass. This here is our Stelvio Pass. Just before it, we have a little wheelie crest where the traction control comes under pressure. We've got tight hairpins and we've got the ambition because I know the lap time and the onboard footage of me will be published without mercy. And of course, I want to show what this bike can really do. And the thing is, this bike actually handles not bad at all. Why is that? Well, partly because you now have extremely well-tuned rider assistance systems. That means in the braking zone and in the acceleration zone, you get genuinely practical support. I have to say, that also works wonderfully out on the road. Yes, we're talking about a supermoto track here, but for me, it simulates road conditions quite well. You don't have that extremely abrasive racing asphalt here. It's fine, nothing bad to say about the grip, but it's not the sort of surface that rips the rubber off your rims. It's actually a fairly comparable tarmac to what you get out there on real roads. That means the rider assistance systems are at a really high level on the BMW S 1000R. And you feel a bit protected, you get the hang of it pretty quickly, and you quickly build a sense for what's possible in the braking zone, what's possible in the acceleration zone, and you dare to put that engine power on the table. What I personally struggled with a bit was this ultra-hard brake pressure point. Yes, I've got these M Sport brake calipers fitted. And yes, in terms of hardware, it's probably perfect for the racetrack. But to me, it felt insanely brutal, very 0 and 1. It worked well, the deceleration was good, and the comfort computer handled everything for me. But in terms of actually feeling mechanically and hydraulically what was happening up front, that wasn't there. I more or less had to trust it blindly. I don't know how it is for you lot, whether you ride such a configuration out on the mountain pass roads, or if any of you still ride something like this on a pass, but I had this very technocratic feeling. It's probably fantastic on the racetrack tomorrow and the day after, but I would have liked something a little more sensitive. What I have to say, though, is that this riding position is also not bad. I've got this slightly firmer, some massive bug just flew straight into my eye, dead on target. The seat is also not bad in the sense that you get great feedback from the bike. You're sat there feeling the little pebbles, you feel how much grip, how much traction you've got. You sit slightly on top of the bike, and the riding position gives you a really strong sense of what's happening at the front end. And now here's the thing, you're in first gear most of the time here, and there aren't many bikes that handle that so well. Just look at the onboard footage. It's not insanely fast. I've got to survive out there on this course. I've only got 10 laps to dial myself in, but I went through the bends confidently, even in first. And I don't know how many of you have ridden other brutal superbikes, but riding somewhere in first gear on them can often be a pain. Because with a lot of other bikes, you've got the slipper clutch, you've got the engine braking, you've got the throttle response, and by the time the power comes in, it's too sharp. Here, in terms of throttle response and how the power comes on, it doesn't feel out of place. Please don't stone me for this. I know it's a shame to be riding only in first here, but it wasn't a chore. It was smooth, pleasant, confident riding. With my riding ability, I was able to make the most of my potential here. And that's something where I have to say, not everyone manages it, that this engine setup at the top end and in its base configuration is ready for a Superbike World Championship title. I know that would involve tuning and so on, but there are already a few shared components. But at the bottom end in the part throttle range and in the transition from engine braking to load, it is so unbelievably foolproof that you can ride with a bit less energy than with other superbikes and even less than with some other power nakeds. That is the big strength of the BMW S1000RR, that even in everyday-like situations, which is what we're simulating here, it can be ridden in a reasonably energy-saving way, despite being such a brutal superbike. And of course, I always have to find some kind of criticism, otherwise people think we're getting fat envelopes of cash from BMW. Please, BMW, do send me a fat envelope so at least these shameful comments are worth my while, but I can't find anything, mate. What am I supposed to make up now? It's a practical, high-performance superbike, and looking at it now, I can't find anything where I think, yeah, I didn't like that. I know, as it's sitting there now, it's insanely expensive. Fine, I could rant about that. There's the Akrapovic fitted, and you see logos everywhere, M this and that, configured to the max. Everything's gleaming and sparkling. Someone's clearly gone all the way through the configurator. Should I complain about that now? Carbon wheels, of course, are fitted too, so nothing's been spared, but the parts actually work here. That's fine. Whether, I don't know, someone will immediately say, but the 1300 GS engine swap, I don't know. I didn't need an engine swap for these 10 laps. It's now at a level of refinement where, honestly, feel free to post mercilessly underneath. Despite my rambling, even here on our own track and even in first gear, I couldn't spot any real weakness in the BMW S1000RR that wasn't inherent to the concept. But there are a lot of things where I think, wow, they've done a cracking job. Congratulations, BMW, and congratulations, dear viewers, for your good taste, which you've held on to this far. Now, post below, what do you think of the S1000RR?